So why is it that some people just sound really engaging? They're really interesting to listen to. You catch every word they say, and you're totally concentrating on their message. Why is this? Well, there's two reasons. The first is that they don't distract you in any way. They don't do anything unusual that takes you away from what they're saying. The second reason is that they do some very subtle things that can help you to listen. And I want to share some things with you. In fact, 3 things that I think are going to really help you. So the first thing is you need to listen to yourself more. This is not something that we normally do. We don't tend to listen to ourselves when we're talking because we're concentrating on what we're saying. But actually, it's quite easy to do. It's just that we just don't do it. So I'm suggesting this is something you should try. Start being more disciplined by listening to how your voice is sounding. You can do this. You just need to start trying. You're looking for how your voice is coming across. So are you sounding monotone? Are you sounding boring? Are you talking too fast? Are you doing anything that can distract the person from the sound of your voice? So you're wanting to listen to yourself more. There are 2 other things you can do as well. The first thing is to do with your hands. So some people think using your hands to support your message, reinforce what you're saying, is distracting. Well, it can be if you don't use them effectively. So I suggest you do start to practice using your hands, but try to use them in a way that makes sense. So if you want to talk about something that's really quite small, you would perhaps might do this. If you're talking about the past or the future, you would use your hands like that. So you're using your hands in a way that actually supports the message. There's something else that happens. You might have noticed as I've been talking. When my hands come out, my voice changes. My voice changes in terms of tone, and that helps to engage people as well. So your body is almost like an engine. And it's quite surprising to think that actually your voice can be supported by something physical that's happening just now. When I'm using my hands, my expression even changes as well. Whereas when I'm still, I tend to talk in a more, not monotone way necessarily, but not an engaging way. So try to practice using your hands. It's something that you'll take a little while to get used to, but it makes a huge amount of sense. When you're not using your hands, make sure you know where you're going to put them though, because you don't want to be just in no man's land. It's tricky to know what to do with them if you don't have what I call a default setting. So when I'm standing up, I would just hold my hands just around my tummy button with my arms slightly bent. That seems to be a comfortable position that I feel is okay. And then when I'm ready to use them, out they come. But they go back to where I know they'll be when I'm not using them. So use your hands. The third thing rather that I think you should try is just considering changing the speed at which you speak rather. So don't talk too fast, because that's obviously difficult for the person to kind of assimilate. You're speaking too fast, they have to work too hard, and that will distract them. And also, of course, if you speak too quickly, well, you can confuse yourself as well. You give yourself more time to think if you talk a little bit more slowly. If you listen to really confident people, just listen to how they speak. They do not tend to speak super fast. And in fact, some of them are quite deliberate in the way they send out their message vocally. Quite deliberate. They don't talk too slowly, but they do talk perhaps slightly more slowly than they would normally, particularly when they're doing presentations. So just think about the speed at which you speak. You can also, and this is very effective as well, if you're doing a presentation or you're at a meeting and you've got something to deliver in the form of some kind of speech or a message at some point, you have a slot, well, consider what your key points are. Because if you modulate your speed and slow down when you get to a key point, just watch people's attention start to change. They'll start to think, what's going on here? They don't really know what happened, but actually what happened is that you slowed down. And if you're clever enough to be able to work out when to slow down because you want to emphasize a point, well, you're doing it at the right time, because that's exactly what you want to happen. You're clearly thinking about volume as well. So if you're in a bigger room, you need to speak slightly more loudly. But if you're in a smaller room, there's no need to raise your voice. If you actually listen to some really confident people as well, by the way, just maybe at a meeting at work, they don't speak loudly necessarily. They speak actually not too quietly, but in a quiet kind of way. And sometimes that's really quite effective because people don't have to work too hard, but they have to just listen. Whereas if you're a person who speaks quite loudly, they don't have to try. And in fact, if you do speak too loudly, consistently, it gets pretty wearing. So you're looking for, a volume that makes sense for the situation. And you're also looking to just make sure that the volume is, consistent with what you want it to be in terms of the number of people in the room and that kind of thing, because everybody needs to hear. So three really simple things that you can do to help you to sound really enthusiastic and engage people. First is to listen more to your voice when you're talking. The second is to use your hands, because that, as you can hear now, makes a huge difference with the sound of your voice in terms of intonation. And also just think about the way in which your voice is being presented. So the speed of it, the volume of it, and this kind of thing. So if you found this interesting, I've got loads of free content, and just click the button below and you'll be sent through to a place where you can actually discover more about what I have to offer.